Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. A couple of nights ago, one of the more interesting one-pickup Les Pauls I've ever seen showed up. So here it is. Just take a minute to let this thing sink in. It's advertised as a Gibson Custom Shop LPR7, meaning a 1957 reissue, in a custom blue-brown burst. Okay. So the first thing that's painfully obvious that makes this thing interesting is the whole one pickup setup. Now we've talked about this quite a few times on the channel, like you can check out my Kazuyoshi Saito Les Paul, that was just a single P90. And in fact, Jared James Nichols' original Old Glory Gibson guitar that eventually birthed the Epiphone version, it started life kinda similar to this but in a Les Paul custom format. And it seems these things were really popular around the 2010s, plus or minus 5 years there. And then they just kind of slowly drifted away. I know Music Zoo has done a bunch of custom orders of these, but they're kind of fascinating guitars. They base their whole idea around them kind of similar to how people like Les Paul Juniors. It's just a single pickup in the bridge. You have to rely on how good of a player you are yourself, as well as your volume and tone controls. So for a lot of people, this is all that they use anyways. They only want the bridge. Now, sometimes you'll find these with the wrap tails, like this particular one, and then other ones you'll find them, they'll actually have the ABR1 bridge setup. I actually had a Silver Burst Les Paul custom setup like this. That was one of the cooler guitars I had starting off. So this one being a wrap tail and a single humbucker is extra interesting to me, especially for the fact that it's billed as a 1957 reissue. So a 57 reissue normally means a gold top with 2 humbuckers, you get your ABR1 bridge and a tailpiece. Personally, I would call this one an R4, the 54 reissue, because those things had the wrap tails. You could just call it a modified R4, like somebody just filled in the neck pickup P90 and then enlarged the wrap for a humbucker. But I would guess the reason why this thing is billed as an R7 probably goes off of the neck profile. Super big and chunky is what I would guess this would have. However, if you read the description, he tells you this was a custom order that he did himself, so the specs could literally be just about anything. But the next thing you'll notice is this finish. It's like a butane burst finish is what I would call it. You can kind of see what I'm talking about right here, like that light blue color and then slightly purple. It's not exactly the same, but butane burst sounds really cool to me, so let's just call it that, because he can't remember what exactly it was called. I have seen this at least one other time, but I don't think it was actually a regular color, or it's just so obscure that even I haven't ran into it in a long time. I think it's reminded me of the Nighthawk limited edition Landmark series that they called it Navajo Turquoise. Somebody did something kind of similar on one of those double humbucker Les Paul specials. But continuing on with his story, he says he custom ordered this from the Kalamazoo factory through an authorized dealer. And he wants to say back in 2009-2010. I couldn't help but laugh. I get it. This guy, he is a guitar player, maybe not so much the historian. So to everybody else, that's not even a joke. But for me, it's like, yeah, Kalamazoo ended in 84, man. So it's like, I don't think you did that from Kalamazoo. He got this from the Nashville custom shop. Because if he got it from the Kalamazoo factory, this is actually a heritage guitar. But he's saying he thinks back in 2009-2010, I can tell him based off of his serial number here, it was 2011 when he did this. Because our 7 refers to the 1957 reissue, and then since we have 5 digits right here, that means we're in the 2010s, and this 1 will then tell us what year, 2011. That'd be my best guess anyway. Sometimes these historic serial numbers get goofy. He might be able to call Gibson up though and ask them what this color was called if he wanted something official on his listing, but I would have to agree it might have been a one-off or just a super limited finish. I mean, he's got to remember if he said, hey, I want this finish because I've seen it here, or hey, I've got this idea for this weird finish. I dig it. I think it looks kind of cool. Reminds me of like the Les Paul Goddess series in a way. The rest of his specs, he's saying maple body with vintage Gibson tuners, rosewood fretboard, and 1 PAF humbucking pickup. Now, a maple body would have been really cool, but I think what he's actually talking about is maple top. Unless I'm wrong, and that was part of his custom order specs, and he's like going after a really early Les Paul Jr. But from these photos, I think it's just mahogany. And it's likely just the mahogany neck, so just regular specs. It doesn't look like he chambered it out or anything. And how much is he asking? He wants $5,100 and $170 shipping. When I first saw this thing, it was interesting enough to me that I thought, yes, I'll buy this. But the whole reason that I did not make this guy an offer, and even he's upset about it. He clanked it off of a microphone stand. But as soon as I saw that, I kind of just thought, the rest of the guitar is going to be pretty beat up. It was likely a Road Dogg or something. It appears to be in okay shape. I mean, it looks like maybe a little bit of buckle worming, just your regular scratches from regular use. So I wouldn't say, hey, the condition's really bad on this. It looks like you could clean this up. It's got a little bit of a aged vibe to it. But I think this would make a good addition to anybody's quirky collection, because there's not like giant gouges and scratches in it anywhere that I see anyways. You can always message the seller. I'll leave a link in the description, and you can ask him any specific questions that you might have if you're interested in his guitar. At least he still has the COA that also has the same serial number and bills it as an R7. And we have the original custom shop case. So overall, I think this is kind of cool. It's one of those quirky one pickup guitars. I would have preferred to have the Les Paul Jr. layout instead of the omitted other knob layout. And I'm sure there's some people that would have rather had this been a tune-o-matic style. But at the end of the day, this was this guy's guitar. It was his custom order. Now, what do I think of his price point? I don't think he's too far off here. I think his shipping cost is going to scare people away. The max, the absolute most you should ever charge anybody for shipping is $65. Anything past that point, people get defensive about the shipping price. It might cost you more than $65 to send it, but just build that into your price normally. It just makes everybody happier. But if I were asked to appraise this instrument, I would say it's probably worth anywhere between $38 to $45. So I think he's right within that. He's open to offers. You can talk him down a little bit. It's got that custom finish. It's a unique guitar. Somebody's going to fall in love with this and need it in their life. So I think he's perfectly on point there. And hey, I think we got a couple extra minutes that we need to fill up in this episode. Let's do a little bit of hunting, see if there's anything good today. 2018 Classic Gold Top. These guys, I think you could get them as cheap as $1,300 when they were brand new, but when the original collection came out and then they kind of had something that looked exactly like this, that's why some people do ask and get the premium for them, because people think they're just a cheaper way to get a 50s P90 standard, which I'm sure there's some differences there, but how much of a difference, I guess I would have to get one to look. 79 Cherry Standard. Whenever I see the year 79 and double white pickups, you always got to make sure it's not a Les Paul KM. Now, just looking at this is likely a routed deluxe. Yep, those are not T-top pickups in there. Well, maybe it's actually just a standard. I thought that truss rod cover said deluxe. It's always a good idea to check that out. I bought a gold top standard once, I think 2 years ago. Everything looked okay at first glance. I bought it from a collector up in Michigan, and then when I got it home to actually take a look at the pickups and show the guy that was potentially interested in buying it, it's like, oh man, I got burnt. Routed deluxe. But this one's actually Kalamazoo built, so that makes it slightly desirable. 1979, 58th day of the year, 101st in production. Not having the original pickups, it's priced a little bit high. Oh sweet, it looks like he also has one of the custom lights. This is the most popular finish. Whether you like the finish or not, this is what collectors generally want because it's the most iconic. Sunset Metallic. That one's got some aging to it. I'm not sure if that's a ding or just a reflection. Hopefully just a reflection. But most of the gold is worn off, so that would exclude it from me wanting to purchase it. I'm okay with a little bit of gold wear, but when it's like the entire thing's worn off, not my style. I would like to get one of these Les Paul basses on the show. They're kind of interesting, to say the least. And I thought this ES Les Paul Custom was kind of cool. I don't think it's $3,700 cool. To me, anyways. I'm not really familiar with the market on those guys. I don't really like the ES Les Pauls. I like the Florentine Customs, though. Oh, these Squire Baritone Cabernitas. I think we'll call it a day with this one. So these things brand new were $400. But since there's not enough supply to meet the demand, people are paying, a $100 to $200 premium for these things. So if you ever see one in a store, I think you should pick it up, because the way baritones normally go is when they're in production, they're underrated, people don't buy them enough. But as soon as they're put out of production, that's when prices go up. I mean, look at this. This is the #1 guitar in baritone instruments. And to further illustrate my point here, the Squire Jazz Masters. Remember we did that review, I think almost a year ago. Look at the prices people are asking on these things. When I did my video, I thought $600 to $800 was high, but all the time I see them anywhere between $1,000 to $1,400. Like, nobody paid a premium for the black one until I made my video. And that's what stinks when you share your love for guitar. It's unfortunately you're sharing your love with other people who also share the love, which drives prices up. I'm sorry, these are not $1,000 guitars, like $800 absolute max. They're cool, and I would only suggest paying like $800, $900 for one of the Antigua ones. But you can check out this review and demo if you want to learn a little bit more about those really, really expensive secondhand Squiers. The only question left, would you rock the butane burst Gibson Les Paul or not? Leave your answer down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.